I really hope Maduro gets heated. Lamau, he won't. I mean, he probably won't, but it would be nice. Also, it's Venezuela. Who the f knows what's going to happen? Election is basically fake. Yeah, but there might have to be like a crackdown, you know? Can we get the guys from Bolivia to coup him? Yeah, I don't know if that would be our best bet for victory in this case. Reuters, give me the kickoff. God, my sinuses are killing me.
Venezuela's presidential candidates made their final appeals to voters ahead of the country's election Sunday. President Nicolas Maduro, who has been in the job since 2013, is running for a third term. The 61-year-old who succeeded Hugo Chavez is confident he is still the right man to lead the OPEC country that has been governed by the socialists for a quarter of a century. His challenger is Edmundo Gonzalez, a 74-year-old former diplomat who has attracted
old. Man, the socialists are really not setting their best, huh?
Significant support, drawing crowds of thousands. He was almost an unknown when he became the opposition alliance's last-minute candidate after Maria Corina Machado, the winner of its October primary, was barred from public office over alleged fraud, which she denies. She has backed Gonzalez and has appeared at his side at several stops on the campaign trail. Maduro has loosened currency controls and curbed once sky-high inflation, but the economy remains stymied by a fall in oil income and enduring sanctions. He has warned of a, quote, bloodbath if the opposition wins, and has promised a new period of growth that will mean the economy will no longer depend on oil income. Gonzalez has appealed to Venezuelan voters' emotions, telling supporters that a change in government could motivate some of the more than 7.7 million migrants who have left the country to return. Gonzalez said Thursday he trusts
7.7 million, dude. That's crazy.
The country's military will respect the will of the people. But other members of the opposition and some independent observers have questioned whether the vote will be fair, saying decisions by electoral authorities and the arrests of some opposition campaign staff are meant to create obstacles. Maduro has said the country has the world's most transparent electoral system. The United States and others have...
They always say shit like that, too. They can never say anything moderate, like, you know, our electoral system is within the guidelines of the international. No, they have to be like, we actually have the most democratic elections in history. God damn, man.
Dismissed the 2018 re-election of Maduro as a sham. The U.S. urged Maduro's government to ensure that Sunday's election is competitive and inclusive.
DEI? DEI Venezuelan election?
54 past the hour. This Sunday, voters across Venezuela will head to the polls in what could be the most consequential election in that country's recent history. The leader of Venezuela's opposition party, Maria Corina Machado, was banned by the regime from running in this election. But she brought in former diplomat Edmundo González Urrutia to run in her place. And much of the country has been mobilized behind him.
Is he a Muppet, dude? Look at his hand size. Holy shit.
Urrutia to run in her place. And much of the country has been mobilized behind him. Joining us now is NBC's Guad Venegas. Also with us, Leopoldo Lopez, exiled Venezuelan opposition leader and a public policy fellow at the Wilson Center. Guad, let me start with you. There's so much at stake this Sunday in these elections.
Jose, there is. And I don't think the experts believe that Nicolás Maduro did not expect, essentially, the surrogate candidate to gain so much support. Essentially, everyone that was supporting Maria Corina Machado now supporting this new candidate. And now you have international pressure coming from countries like Colombia and Brazil on Nicolás Maduro. Lula da Silva asking Nicolás Maduro to recognize the results. And they're also not...
These are allies of Maduro.
These are known allies of the government of Venezuela. Both Colombia and Brazil also not sending the observers that would be there to watch the elections because they felt like there wasn't enough to keep them safe there. So that's also something that is getting a lot of attention. And let's keep in mind that the U.S. had eased off a lot of the sanctions on Venezuela earlier, but then they put them back on because Venezuela could not commit to what the U.S. wanted them to commit with fair elections. So, and then, Jose, we also have to talk about the fact that 8 million Venezuelans have left the country. The country has changed since the last elections, and the opposition wants to win so that the Venezuelans that have left can come back, and many of them in the U.S. We still don't know how many are in the U.S. We just know
hundreds of thousands.
Exactly, but what we...
It's crazy, dude. I knew that Venezuela had lost a lot of people. I didn't realize it was like a quarter of the population. Sheesh.
Know is that millions have been forced to leave the country because of the issues that they've been facing.
Well, Venegas, thank you so very much. Leopoldo, I want to thank you for being with us this morning.
What is it that America's mad at Venezuela about? For communism, for doing communism and failing, for doing communism and inflation. Karl Marx. The only reason we specifically have had it out for Venezuela is because, like, not the only reason. The primary reason we've had it out for Venezuela is because of just global partisan bullshit, you know? Much in the same way that we continue to embargo Cuba for literally no reason. It's not motivated by, like, any specific regional threat they pose. I mean, they're an ally to, like, Russia and stuff like that, but they're not the only one, you know? Venezuela's evil, though? Yeah, since when have we had an issue getting along with evil OPEC countries?
So for people, Leopoldo, who aren't hyper-focused on what's going on in Venezuela, why are elections on Sunday important under a regime that doesn't follow basic human rights?
Well, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. It's a huge opportunity for Venezuelans. The elections are not free, are not fair. Our candidate was banned. Millions of people were taken away the possibility for voting. However, we are very optimistic because this could mean the transition to democracy in Venezuela. And I want to very briefly state why we are very optimistic. Number one, for the first time, the spread between the Maduro and the Democratic candidate, it's huge. All of the polls state that there is a 30 to 40 points of difference. So that's the first reason. The second one is that we have coalesced complete unity around the leadership of Maria Corina Machado and the candidacy of Edmundo Gonzalez. All political parties, civil society, everybody united. The third reason is that Maduro and his coalition show.
Sheesh, he's not kidding. I didn't realize the polling difference was that big. 12 points for Maduro to 72 points for Gonzalez from this poll. Jesus, like, look at these, man. What the Sheesh.
Symptoms of fracture, of fragility. Maduro is angry. He is going to rallies with empty streets. He's not mobilizing people. He's using Photoshop and AI in order to fill the streets that he's not filling with the people. And the fourth reason that was just mentioned is that even his international allies like Brazil, Colombia, Alberto Fernandez from Argentina are all saying something very simple, but that is not being liked by Maduro. If you win, you win. If you lose, you lose. And if you lose, you need to prepare to go. So this is a huge opportunity for Venezuela, for the region. And
Are you pro or anti-Maduro? Maduro's a piece of shit. Maduro is genuinely, like, reprehensibly bad. He's bad for Venezuela. He's bad for everyone. Nobody likes him. He's terrible. F Maduro. Seriously. Like, the only people in America who support Maduro support him because they know America doesn't like him. That's it. It's like supporting Assad, you know? He's a piece of shit. He's done terrible, terrible things to the Venezuelan people, and he's done poor rep for socialists. It seems like this guy, the old man, Gonzalez, it seems like he's just kind of like a centrist. He doesn't have much of a Wikipedia page. He's literally just like, wow, I didn't expect to run for office. I just really want us to all get along. Haha. An apolitical consensus maker, which might actually be true. He worked under Hugo Chavez in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Oh, no. Even later than that. The ambassador to Algeria, Directorate of International Policy. So he's like a foreign policy guy. First secretary for the Venezuelan ambassador to the U.S. in 78.
I believe that it's a huge opportunity for the U.S. because if migration, as it was mentioned before, is a big concern for the U.S., the best migration policy regarding Venezuela that has poured millions of people to the region and many of them going to the States and Canada is a political transition to democracy in Venezuela. If Maduro stays in power, millions of people will be forced to leave Venezuela.
I'm just wondering what you think the lessons learned for authoritarian and totalitarian regimes about holding elections and not controlling them. What lessons were learned when the Sandinistas had elections and lost them? And then what are the lessons learned when you have these dictatorships that have these sham elections like in Cuba for 65 years where they have a parliament?
Wonder what the partisan bias on display here is from. Oh, what is that? MSNBC Miami. Curious.
That doesn't exist, but there's elections for it.
There's just a weird bringing up of Cuba there. Makes you wonder.
What are the messages that those incidents taught Maduro? And do you think that there's possibility that he could indeed respect election results?
Wait, are the elections not fake in Cuba? They're not like Venezuela, that's for sure. Cuba, I mean, obviously he just said 60 years, so he's going back like so far in history. Cuba has had varying levels of like the public will behind its unitary party rule, you know. I don't like comparing it to Maduro, largely because I think Cuba's situation is a lot more motivated by necessary circumstance, you know, being embargoed by the world's largest economic power, who's also right off the coastline, who threatens you and like talk shit about you constantly. Isn't it just dictatorship though? In Cuba, it's certainly not like a proper democracy, but it's not a dictatorship in the same way that, say, Maduro is, you know?
Well, I don't think Maduro is willing to respect, but I think he might be forced to respect the results because the difference is going to be huge.
The Venezuelan elections are more fair than Cuba's. They're more democratic in the sense that they're not a one-party state the way Cuba is. But I think that Cuba is the Cuban unitary party state has done a better job, generally speaking, of attempting to represent the interest of its people. But for that, you have to work outside of the purview of like liberal democracy. For liberal and democracy, they are not, you know? I guess I would argue that despite being more ostensibly liberal and democratic, Venezuela for the past 12 years has been less benevolent in its sham of a democracy than Cuba has in its non-democracy. I'm sure Lenin said the same, and compared to the Tsar, he was correct, but not really a comparison because there wasn't a... That's not really a valid comparison. The Tsar wasn't a democracy, it was a monarchy that he overthrew.
It's going to be, if Maduro pretends to present a fraud, it's going to be very obvious because in the case of Venezuela, even though the elections are through an electronic process, every single voter gets a receipt of their vote and is casted into physical box. And we are preparing to have presence of witnesses for the audits of those boxes in every single one of the 16,000 voting centers in Venezuela. So Maduro could be hoping, could be planning to steal the election, but there will be pushback, there will be, and I believe that there will be...
Jose Diaz-Balart is the nephew of Fidel Castro, from Castro's first wife who fled to America. Wait, really? Is that true? Cuban-American journalist, hold on. His family left Cuba in '59. He was raised in Madrid, Spain. He is the son of Rafael Diaz-Balart y Gutierrez and Hilda Caballero Brunet. His uncle was an internationally recognized painter. His aunt was Fidel Castro's first wife, and therefore Fidel Castro is his uncle through marriage. Okay, Miami never change.
A reaction of people that will feel that they themselves were stolen their vote.
Leopoldo Lopez, thank you so very much.
Different video.
I have a question.
Well, hopefully Maduro loses. In what way is Maduro like Assad? Did I say Maduro is like Assad? I said that he would have to employ, or did I think he would have to employ Assad-level election shenanigans to overcome that polling bias? Assad is much worse than Maduro. Oh no, I said that like the only reason people in America defend him is if they're campists, the same way that they defend Assad purely because America doesn't like Assad, even though Assad is a monster. Assad's much worse than Maduro. Yeah, campists. Well, he's a campist, Benjamin. Makes sense. It all falls into place. Why even be a campist? Gets you likes on Twitter. What do you think about people who use dictatorial means to achieve populist ends? I mean, it can be defended in some specific circumstances. For example, I think Thomas Sankara was right to do it. Thomas Sankara was the most right that anyone has ever been to like act dictatorially. You know, no one has ever been as justified post-mortem as that guy in the context, please. Thomas Sankara, leader of Burkina Faso, revolutionary socialist, recognized that basically everyone in government was varying levels of compromise by the French and wanted him killed. So he started getting increasingly dictatorial. And then he was validated when he was killed by effectively an agent of the French government. In Burkina Faso, you can't just build a democracy whole cloth, man. That country was and is still, you know? I think Argentina might need some of that. No, Argentina has the infrastructure for a proper functioning democracy. The main problem, honestly, is just that Argentinians are stupid and jaded. I'm really sorry, folks. The sweep of popular support that you guys gave for Milei, a person who is more of a clown than Donald Trump, insane, you know? You guys need to believe again. The Brazilian influence finally got the Vosh. Listen, I am an ally of Brazil, okay? Brazilians are a delight on the internet, you know? Brazilians are just a pleasure to be around, okay? We love Luffy.